What's up, golf sickos? Welcome back to Dan on Golf, presented by Knockaround. I am joined, as always, by my Sherpa.
Hey.
Sherpa.
Wish I would have wore a fleece today.
You're a Sherpa, you know? My take Sherpa. Sherpaing me through the take wilderness.
I will show you the way.
A lot to get into today. First, I went into the mountains, again, camping, so I'm sure everyone's going to hear about that all week, because when you go camping, the first rule of camping is you got to talk about it for the rest of the week. But more importantly, and that was where the Sherpa thing came from.
Gotcha.
You know, I could have used a Sherpa out there.
Invite me next time.
I wished you were there. We could have talked about golf. Emma would have hated it. Okay. Aldrich Potgieter is a winner on the PGA Tour after his victory at the Rocket Don't Say Mortgage Classic. I got it right behind me here. That's the name of the tournament, Rocket Don't Say Mortgage Classic. Just the 5th international player to win before the age of 21. And it was a really entertaining Sunday. We had Chris Kirk, we had Jake Knapp, Max Grazerman, Michael Thorbjornsen, Matt Fitzpatrick, and Collin Morikawa poke their heads in there for a little bit. There's a lot to get into with Collin. We're going to get into all of that, all the Caddie stuff, and his, shall we say, spirited conversations with the media. We're going to get into it all. Before we do our proper deep dive into everything that happened in the world of golf, just a quick scheduling announcement. I am leaving for Ireland on Saturday. If you've been watching the program recently, you've heard me talk nonstop about this trip. I'm very excited. But the thing about trips is that when I'm in Ireland, I will not be here. That's how that works. So we will not be here in studio next week. We're going to put together a little show for you guys, but we're going to have a 1-week break from the live show. And then right after July 4th, we're going to get back into it. The break is right after July 4th, and we're going to get back into it July 14th, live from Port Rush.
That's right.
We're going to do Dan on Golf live from Port Rush. The boys are going. Myself, Alex Bush, Ben Boscovich, late edition. How we feeling? You excited?
Excited. First time to the north.
First time to Northern Ireland. I'm gonna be there. I'm gonna be on the Irish island for like 12 days.
That's right.
But between now and then, I have some really all-time golf coming up. Between now and the Open, I'm playing Portmarnock a week from today, which is like when these golf trips just sort of exist as an idea, as a pie in the sky idea. And this one's been on the calendar for like a year. It's been my 30th birthday trip. I'm playing Portmarnock a week from Monday. So it's starting to get very, very real. And throughout my trip, I think we're playing 6, maybe 7 courses, I'm going to be tracking everything with Arccos. Nice. There's another really cool golf thing I'm preparing for, and I hope that Arccos is going to help me. I'm going to try to qualify for the U.S. Mid-Am. I signed up for a qualifier July 28th. Like Rory McIlroy said, you have to put yourself in position to be heartbroken. I've had a sort of a complicated relationship with golf over the last couple of years where I feel like if I could just practice, I'm really close to a breakthrough. I haven't really been able to practice. I kind of have time now, and we've got Arccos to help me understand my game and the data and the analytics and how I'm going to attack the qualifier. And we're going to get some amazing data. I've already started tracking my stuff. It's been great. My driver needs work. That's what I'm learning. But yeah, July 28th, I got a qualifier for the U.S. Mid-Am. I'm going to try my hardest. The odds are that I don't make it. I understand how this works. I need to get a lot better at golf, but I figure I have access to these amazing tools like Arccos. I have access to some amazing teachers who are willing to help. Parker, I'm going to go see Parker, and probably go see George Gankis, and Parker McLaughlin. I'm going to try.
How's your back?
My back is fine. My back is totally fine. I herniated a disc in September last year, and then I had to go to physical therapy, which was basically just get really strong, and I've been working out, and I've had no issues with all my travel and all my golf.
That's great.
It's great.
It's time to know then.
It's time. It's like I got to stop running from, you have a fear of failure, and it's like a Schrodinger's cat situation, right? Love that little thought experiment. As in my head, it's like, well, I don't know if I'm good enough to like actually, try and get better, but if I just keep it in this box, I'll always be able to feel like I would be good enough. It's time to sort of find out the answer. And obviously one round of golf is one round of golf. This is all leading to sort of one round of golf. So there's going to be a lot of pressure.
You'll learn a lot along the way.
I'll learn a lot along the way, and Alex Bush is going to caddy for me, I think, and so we're going to have a hell of a day, July 28th at Bear Creek in Murrieta. Okay, Aldrich Potgieter. So I was out in the mountains on Sunday, perhaps you heard, re-emerged Sunday morning and saw the leaderboard. I was really excited. This season's been so great. The summer in particular has been so great, and Sunday was a really nice opportunity to lock in and watch some guys who we don't see every week in a signature event. So Potgieter started the day with a 2-shot lead, and I was very curious how he was going to close after that, because he blew it in Mexico. When Brian Campbell beat him in a playoff, he had a lead. He played terrible. It was David versus Goliath that week. It was the shortest player on the PGA Tour against the longest player on the PGA Tour. And then fast forward to the Rocket Don't Say Mortgage Classic, he's 1 over through 5 in the final round after being 19 under through three rounds. And you're thinking, here we go again. But he started to really, really flush the driver. I think 7 of his last 8 drives were 190. They were all 190 plus ball speed, but 7 of the 8 were dead center. And when you do that, you're going to make some birdies. That's how that works. So he birdied 7, 18, 13, 14, 17, and the gutsy 2-putt on 18 to get into the playoff with Chris Kirk, who had already finished, and then Max Grazerman, who he was playing with, who hooped a 35-footer on 16 to get back in the mix. We love even numbers on this show.
Yeah.
We talked a lot about Mr. 80-60, Sebastian Gross. We wanted Nick Dunlap to be Mr. 90-70. He failed us by one shot, 90-71 at the Masters. This playoff was a 20-year-old versus a 30-year-old versus a 40-year-old. Which, for a round number guy like myself,
pretty nice.
Very exciting.
Generational battle.
You've got an up-and-comer, you've got a guy in the sort of the heart of his prime, and you've got one of the 40-pluses, battling father time. They play the first playoff hole, all pars, second playoff hole. Chris Kirk misses a super short putt. Third, so he's out. Third playoff hole, pars. Fourth playoff hole is a par 5. They both made birdies. And then finally, on the fifth playoff hole, here we were watching Aldrich Potgieter get his first PGA Tour win.
Aldrich Potgieter for his first PGA Tour victory. Aldrich Potgieter! There it is! He closed it out. Wow.
We love golf.
After blowing it earlier this year in Mexico, he did not get off to a good start today, but he bounced back. Drove it like a stallion down the stretch. That's big, man. That's big. He's had chances to win 2 events this year. He really threw up all over himself the first time, and he closed this one with a birdie on the 5th playoff hole.
I really did think he was going to melt a few times, and he kind of tried to on Sunday, but no, he closed it out. We were lucky to catch up with him after the round. Here is myself and Aldrich Potgieter.
We talked about filming some content together, but I always wanted your first time on the show to be after a victory. You had to dig really deep today. After that start, how big for you was this, with Mexico earlier in the year, and to turn it around in a round like that?
It was huge. I mean, Mexico definitely taught me a big lesson that a lot of things can happen in a playoff and during a round. So it was nice to get over that line. I don't know what I would have done if I lost in a playoff again. So it was nice to get over the line and get the victory and hold the trophy.
Your chipping was a bit of an issue in Mexico, and I've seen you on tour working really, really hard at it. You hit a really, really good one on 13. You hit a pretty good one on 14. Just how much have you been working on that?
Yeah, it's been one of the things that I needed to work on. I think looking at the stats from the year so far, my iron play was probably the worst out of everything. So I think I had to rely on the chipping so much that it's like hitting every shot. Like Scotty, when he started playing so good, he hit everything to 6 feet, and he missed 6-footers here and there, and everyone said, "Oh, his putting's terrible." But looking at it, yeah, my chipping can improve so much. But definitely iron play, getting it closer, getting it on the green. I don't have to rely so much on it. Definitely scored a lot on the par 5s where I had to make up and down from some spots. So I definitely think it's improved quite a lot. So, but there's a lot of work still to do.
I have a couple of questions that I guarantee you didn't get in the press conference. Do you remember the Monday qualifier for the 2023 NV5 Invitational on the Korn Ferry Tour?
Is that the one where I shot 10 under to get in and then shot 6 to miss the cut by 1? I think.
You shot
Chicago,
10 under.
Yeah.
You know who shot 7 over in that Monday qualifier?
I do not.
Dan Rappaport right here. We were doing the broadcast that week because it was with Barstool. We were doing the event, and so we had a corporate deal, and they wanted me to play in the Monday qualifier. I was like, but I did break 80, so that's respectable.
Okay. Yeah. The one thing I can remember about that, I was one of the last groups coming in, and there was about 10 guys on the putting green who was at 6 under. Who were all tied, and we walked into the clubhouse, and my caddy was behind me, and someone asked, did anyone shoot better than 6? And my caddy was like, yeah, we shot 10 under. And the guy turned around and threw his putter like 20 yards. And yeah, it was quite to see the guys, how much effort they put in just to make Monday qualify for one event. There's a lot of golf out in the world.
And you were 18, you were probably 18 years old.
I was, yeah.
They're like, some kid just came in and ruined my dream. My last question for you, another non-press conference question. What does lekker mean? We were doing the watch along today. We do a stream for the back 9, and all the South Africans kept saying lekker, and I feel like I've seen Eric Van Rooyen use that word a lot, and I want to get a definition from someone who's from the country.
Lekker is like great. It's nice. You're doing nice. Or if you're saying, oh, this drink, it's lekker, it means the drink is nice. So that's kind of the main. The thing with South African words, you can use them in so many different ways. So that's kind of the main thing. It's nice.
So your putt on the 5th playoff hole was lekker.
It was lacquer. Yeah.
Beautiful. Good stuff, man. Congratulations. We'll do some stuff soon. Enjoy this one.
All right.
There's only one first win. You gonna take some time to enjoy this?
Oh yeah. I'm taking next week off. Not playing John Deere.
Good stuff, man. Good for you. Enjoy it.
Thanks, Dan. Thank you.
I know you're a big first win guy. It's a little bit of a different first win because he's 20.
Yeah.
You know, it's not like he's been grinding for his whole life for the first win. But how on the scale of 0 to Waterworks tiers, where were you?
I was on like a 6 on the Waterworks scale, but he has been grinding his whole life. It's just a shorter amount of time.
Life. Yeah, that's a good point. I want to talk about some other stuff from the week at Rocket Mortgage. Jake Knapp, apparently the first player ever to shoot 59 and 61 in the same season. I think that's right. He missed the playoff by 1 and actually only moved up 6 spots in the FedEx Cup. So it's that's kind of a look into how important it is to be in the signature events, because Knapp has not been in the signature events. So he gets a chance this week, full field event, finishes in tie for 4th, only moves up 4 spots. I think it's because there's a lot of points in there now. Like, it's not, beginning of the season, there's just a lot of points that are already baked in because there's been played so many tournaments, but it just shows, like, it's not just winning a signature event. It's like getting in. Yeah, there it is. First player to have a sub 60 score and a score of 61 or lower in the same season. And his girlfriend just thinks, hot. She's great. She's fantastic. But yeah, these signature events are huge just because the points are bigger all around. And there are other guys who are outside the top 100 who had a big week. One of those, and if you're outside the top 100, you missed the FedEx Cup playoffs this year. It's only 100, not 125. That includes Michael Thorbjornsson. So this guy won PGA Tour U last year out of Stanford, which means he was exempt for the back half of last season from Canadian Open on through the full this season. But after this season, he's on his own. So he was 110th coming in, but finished tied for 4th. So he moved up to 84 and inside the top 100. That's huge. He's got JJ Jakovac on the back. We're going to get into all the caddy stuff very soon. We got a big caddy section for everybody. Chris Kirk also moved up from 110 to 67. So that one shot was massive because they were both 110 and 1 shot difference. And Michael Thorbjornsson's 84th, and Chris Kirk is 67th, 17 points, 17 spots just with 1 shot. Matt Fitzpatrick, just his second top 10 of the year. He's 69th in points. Started working with Mark Blackburn. The approach play has been much better recently, so perhaps, gearing up for a late charge to try to make that Ryder Cup team. Speaking of the Ryder Cup team, another really, really solid week for Ben Griffin, tied for 13th. He's 6th in the FedEx Cup points, 6 straight finishes of T14 or better. He's number 9 on Data Golf now, so get this man to Bethpage. He's going to be there. Captain Keegan, tied for 41st. A whirlwind. I think we were expecting some sort of drop-off. Wins the Travelers, which is a huge event for him being from New England. That's New England's PGA Tour event. So he made the cut, shot 12 under, but tied for 41st. And then one I wanted to highlight, Gordon Sargent made his first cut on the PGA Tour. So I was worried about him. He dropped out. Remember, he locked up his PGA Tour card all the way back in the fall of 2023 at Vanderbilt. He could have turned pro after his junior year. In the spring of 2024, opted to go back to Vanderbilt. Game went to shit. Was outside the top 500 in the college rankings. Didn't even travel with Vanderbilt to the regional or to the national championship. And it was kind of a unique situation because most guys, when they're about to start their PGA Tour career, they're playing really well. They've either just got their card through the Korn Ferry, or they've got through Q School, or they've played really well in PGA Tour events to get that card. He was in a unique situation where he was playing the worst he's played. I mean, this guy was the #1 amateur in the world at one point, but took some time off. Wasn't playing in college. Shot 1 under to miss the cut at the Canadian Open, but made the cut this week. And considering how low he was, I mean, he could not break 75 for the last 3 months of college. That's huge. Max Homa, another missed cut. He's down to 122nd in the FedEx Cup, and that tied for 12th at the Masters, looking more and more like an aberration rather than the start of a run. All right. And we got Short Game Chef. I forgot about this. I totally forgot about that. Okay, so this is awesome. So last week we analyzed Tommy Fleetwood and Jason Day's chips with Parker McLaughlin, aka Short Game Chef. We got into it. The kind of deeper analysis that you don't really have time for on a broadcast. You guys seem to really dig it, so we brought him back. Maybe we'll do this every time. I don't know. Here's Short Game Chef talking about Aldrich Potgieter's chipping transformation.
I mean, Aldrich is so talented. Hits the ball so far. But in the early part of his career, I think the chipping has been a bit of an Achilles heel. Is that common to see with these younger players who smash driver the way that he does?
Not even younger players, but just players that understand how to fully leverage the ground, create a lot of ball speed, compress the golf ball. It's difficult for them inside of 50 yards to do the exact opposite and slow the golf ball down.
So on 13, he hits an absolutely massive drive. I mean, this guy turns 400-yard par fours into like driver flick. What are you seeing here, and maybe compared to sort of what we
what we might have seen earlier in the year when he was struggling.
Yeah, so I think if you look at this motion here, about a 50 to 55 yard shot carry wise, and you watch how quiet his lower body is. And I saw some slow-mo of his lower body when he's hitting driver and the explosiveness behind it. And you watch how quiet this low body is for this 50-yard shot. That's the thing that's extremely impressive. I love the way that he, has some good structure in the backswing. He's not getting super long and loose with it. And then I also loved how he sort of sawed off that follow-through and really made sure that it was like, okay, it's all going to go together. It's not going to be like I'm not flipping at it, right? It's just going to all go together and it's going to stop right here. So the combination of like a really structured backswing, quiet legs, no explosiveness with his legs on the way through, and then that nice like abbreviated follow through, it was gorgeous.
And before in Mexico, it was a little handsier. It was a little jabbier.
Yeah, I think it was definitely more. Yeah, had more of that sort of like hit. Like I'm gonna drive the legs, but I'm not sure how much I'm supposed to drive the legs. And then I drove them too much. Now let me let go with my hands.
You want to be able to feel like you can move not
aggressively through
aggressively, right? But you need to be able to move aggressively without creating ball speed.
Correct.
Yeah, that's hard to do. Okay, so 14
for a guy like that. Yeah.
14, he hits it short right. Pretty good lie. He's probably thinking about making this. It looked like he was trying to keep all that weight on his left foot.
Yeah. For a shot like that, kind of sitting in that sort of first cut. He plays it very sort of almost square to shut on the way back. So he's more like a shut to then open on the way through. It's a different kind of a matchup, but it's not to say that it doesn't work. But for that particular shot, like that's the bread and butter for that type of matchup. A little bit shut to a little bit open. You want to keep that thing sort of a little bit closer to the ground, land it on, let it kind of run out a little bit. And I think he did a beautiful job with that one. It was kind of a can of corn type of a shot.
Yeah.
But it's just sort of like, keep everything in your lower body real quiet. Don't let the knees get involved. And then just make the motion feeling like it's with your shoulders.
And then 15, this was a bad one. Okay. So, chipping out of the fairway, we saw a really good chip out of the fairway, or pitch, I should say, on 13. On 15, what'd you see here? He's kind of got it back in his stance. He's got to try to hit it over a ridge and just kind of flubs it, if anything.
Yeah, I think, it was probably number one, a bit of a misread of the lie, right? It's hard to tell what was going through his head, but my guess would be that it was a bit of a misread of the lie. And it looked like he had to go up and over that sort of knob. And if you're going to go back of the stance with his sort of shut face on the way back, you're most likely intuitively going to kind of hang back, right? Which is sort of what he did. And caught a lot of grass first. So, for him, I think a little bit of the misread of the lie, thinking he could probably get.
But is that technique a little bit tougher in the rough, I would think?
Yeah, I think the technique.
Because I was just FaceTiming him and he was like, I still have a long way to go with the short game. It's not like it's a finished product.
Yeah. I think for a guy that goes a little bit more shut on the way back to open on the way through, it's going to be harder to hit those sort of floatier, softer ones, which is kind of what he needed to kind of get it over that little rise in the green. He's going to be much better off like playing sort of that little low bump and run, bump and check type of a shot for right now.
All right, man. Much appreciated. We're going to start doing this. This has been a lot of fun. We'll do it again.
Yeah, dude. I love it. Well, it could have gone the other way too if Grazeman would have won. It would have been like, oh, let's look at his pitch on 17.
Yeah, exactly. Well, there's something to talk about every week.
Well, then the other one I almost sent you was Stuart Sink chipped in cross-handed at the U.S. Senior Open yesterday.
It's all over the place.
Yeah.
We'll have to do a little segment on cross-handed chipping.
Yeah, anytime.
All right,
next time someone like Sink chips in to win or something like that.
Yeah, we'll do it. All right, man.
Okay, buddy. Be well.
Cheers. Parker's living nice.
I was going to say,
Hawaii.
I don't have what he's having.
Hawaii.
Hawaii, is that where he's at?
He's from Hawaii.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So he went to UCLA,
nice.
But he's from Hawaii. And whenever I go to Hawaii, sometimes with my family, Parker.
He's got the rec.
Yeah. Not even the rec. It's just like, you want to play this course? Great.
Oh,
Talk to this guy. Like he's Mr. Hawaii.
I want to say I like what he was talking about, that 50-yard like end-to-end chip. I've been practicing that on the simulator.
Yeah.
Really, when you dial that in, it's like, okay, if I'm 50 yards, I know exactly what to do. It's toe up and tempo.
Well, that's what I think the simulator is best for, is like distance control and like being able to just like be in a controlled environment and just like hit, try to hit 5 52-yard shots in a row. I
also love that we're doing that segment because I feel like the short game, there are so many different combinations of what you can do with the club face and your hand.
Well, it's also, and it's actually applicable.
Yeah.
Like we're break down Aldrich Potgieter's golf swing. With all due respect to all you sickos out there, you're not going to swing it that way.
Right.
You know, but the short game is so much of technique. And that's why, like, I am very hesitant to ever give people swing tips because everyone's body moves so differently and it's such a high speed motion. But with short game, you can really pick up a lot from just learning information. And
that like closed to open, it made sense to me.
Makes sense. Yeah, you feel it. I mean, everyone has chips. No one's hit 350-yard drives.
Everyone's got chips.
Everyone's got chips. All right, we're going to hop into a segment we call the Knockaround. These are the panoramas.
Oh.
I'm really liking these. I feel like these are a nice little statement piece. Just an amazing product, Knockaround. They're the presenting sponsor on this show, and we would not have agreed to that deal if we didn't absolutely love the product and the company and the team. Also, a shout out to Jeff. Jeff got engaged.
Yeah, congrats.
Which was awesome. We love to see that. And we got a promo code for you guys. So these sunglasses are $30, $35, I think, to begin with, which is an out-of-control great price. If you use the promo code DanOnGolf20, so you go to knockaround.com, use the promo code DanOnGolf20, you get 20% off your first order, which brings these under $30, and I can't tell you how good this product is for under $30. It's a joke. Just get yourselves a couple. You know, the money that you would use for one pair of sunglasses, you could buy like 3 or 4 of these. So we're going to start with Live Dallas. So Patrick Reed won his first Live event at Live Dallas in a 4-way playoff over Paul Casey, Louis Oosthuizen, and Jinichiro Kosuma. There's some Ryder Cup chatter now involving Mr. Reed, given his history with the tournament. Also finished solo third at the Masters. I still think he needs a really solid Open to have a legitimate shot, but I wanted to turn this over. Actually, is he even in the Open? I don't even know if he's in.
We looked it up.
He is in the Open. But I wanted to turn this over to Ben because you have a positive, heartwarming Patrick Reed story. And with Patrick Reed, all you hear about is the negative, but we got room for both sides here on Dan on Golf. So I'm going to turn this over to Ben Boscovich.
Thanks, Dan. Yeah, I love this story. This is a very meaningful story to me and my family. So back in 2018, I got to go to my first ever Masters tournament. And it was with Mercedes. It was a press trip. And I said to them, I would love to come, but I can't imagine doing this for the first time without my father.
That's a A+ son move.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
You're a good son.
And they loved the idea. It was easy for me to write a story around that and weave in Mercedes easily. I mean, my dad got to drive in a Maybach. Like, come on. So we go down there. We experienced the Masters for the first time. It was one of the best experiences of my life thus far. I write a story about it, about how spending time with my dad here, it was kind of a rough time. I was going through some stuff, and being there with him was like very transformative for me. It brought me back to life, I wrote in the headline. And then we got home, and my dad and I can't stop talking about the Masters that we went to.
Which Patrick Reed won.
Patrick Reed won in 2018. And we find this photo on Getty Images of Patrick Reed chipping behind the 17th green. I think we have it. And my dad and I are seen in the background watching this chip, like golf sickos. You can see us like leaning.
Where are you?
Far right. My dad's in the white hat right against the corner behind Patrick.
Oh, there you are.
Black.
Okay.
There. So we're just like watching this chip, and we followed him up at 18. So my dad found this photo and was like, oh my God, this costs $500 on this thing called Getty Images. And I said, Dad, say less.
I'm the plug.
My company's got a subscription, so I download the photo. I made it the lead image on the article, and my dad went an extra step because I think dads are like, they're sweet and innocent in this way. Like they're like, oh, I'll just reach out to Patrick Reed.
Fan mail.
And he, via the contact us part of prereedgolf.com, he sent a link to the article. He sent the photo, and he said, hey, this like meant a lot to me. I'll always remember like your Masters win. Just wanted to send this to you. And he asked Patrick Reed if I could have an autograph. Like such a dad thing. Like, can my son have your autograph?
And this is in the middle of Patrick Reed, like, because right after he won, our good friend Alan Shipnuck torched him in an article about him and his family. So it was a heavy time kind of on both sides.
A heavy time. And much to our surprise, Patrick and Justine, his wife, both ended up emailing my dad back, and something Patrick said was like, which I found, poignant at the time, especially given what you just said. Like he said, your son is lucky to have you as a dad that would like do this and do this with him. And he read the article, so he was like, that you were there for him. And it was a really like emotional thing. Well, my dad ends up becoming pen pals with Patrick and Justine.
So they're exchanging messages.
They're exchanging emails saying, hey, good luck at the Open in a couple weeks. But I show up to the office probably a month or two after the Masters, and there's this giant like 4-foot tall wrapped in brown paper package for me at my desk. I'm like, what is this? And I open it up, and ultimately what had happened, long story short, Patrick Reed told my dad he wanted to do something nice for me, and he had his personal framer, like the framer his family uses, put together this giant, we have a photo of this too, like homage to my story, to the tournament, to the photo that's there. It's a signed image of a signed photo that I showed you before. It's a Masters flag signed from 2018.
He went out of his way.
He went out of it. He framed the whole article in there. It's really beautiful. And I texted my dad and I was like, did you make this for me? This is unbelievable. And he said, no, Patrick Reed made this for you.
There it is.
So just goes to show you that, like, you don't know everything about everybody. This guy has a big heart. He did something for me and my dad that we will never forget. And for that, I'll always like have a little bit of a soft spot.
You know, there's a little bit of something to be said for, you know, especially with public figures, there's so much that's like said about them. But if you have a really nice personal interaction with someone, like that has to matter for something.
It can carry you through, yeah.
You know, and like I've always said this about Patrick Reed. Like I know the stories about, you know, the dubious relationship with the rules of golf, and I'm not denying any of that. But I've always said, you know, because people always ask, oh, what's Patrick Reed like? I'm like, well, I think if you played a pro-am with Patrick Reed, I think you'd really like him.
You'd probably have a great time.
Really friendly, and so that's, you know, it's nice to get both sides of the story.
Yeah.
So that's a good story. Have you seen Patrick since?
I haven't seen I've never met Patrick.
Yes, you have. We were at the Masters.
Well, I've seen him, but I don't think he would. I don't know. I've never said like, hey, I'm that guy.
I think you should. I think you should say,
Patrick,
hey,
if you're watching,
just have the picture, have this photo, and go up to him and say, hey, man, you did something really nice for me and my dad. I think you know, he probably gets a lot of negativity.
Let's go find him at the Open beforehand.
Let's do it.
We can film it. Maybe.
Let's do it. That's a great idea.
It'll be fun.
Wow, you have content brain. I just said that. What a lovely moment for that. And Ben's like, I can get 200,000 views out of that. You're a cynical guy. Now we have a mission. Over there in Port Rush. All right. Also, not to move on too quickly. Yeah, not to move on from your lovely story, but also in Dallas, the streak is over, guys. The streak is over. We were locked in on this. That was the photo that popped up on the screen earlier. Jon Rahm. The streak is over. We were following this. He made a late birdie. We tried to get him in the top 10. I think it would have been 20 in a row on Live, but no, didn't happen. Late birdie from I think Bryson knocked him out of the top 10.
We were willing him.
Big day. I say this is a big day for Liv. You know, he's Jon Rahm character. He's a really good player. Couldn't even finish top 10 in one of our events. They can now say that now. You know, before they literally could not say that. But the streak is over. Jon Rahm finishes in a tie for 11th. And this was very much Bryson's tournament. This was Bryson's home tournament in Dallas, and he was on one all week. just a ton of headlines and viral moments from the Content King. Let's watch him hype up the crowd at the concert. Dead sober, too, I'm sure.
Dallas, you guys are incredible! Give it up for Whiskey Myers! Incredible! How are you guys feeling tonight? You guys showed up. You loved every minute of today, and I can't thank you enough for coming out.
Speak from the heart.
It's a big crowd.
Day. You stuck through it in the heat. I can't thank you enough, and you guys better be here tomorrow. It's going to be an even more incredible night. I love you guys.
Oh, we missed we cut out the bit where he tossed his sweaty hat into the crowd, and everyone went crazy for it.
You know what else we know? We didn't mention this. He had a GoPro on the champagne yesterday at the
He was ready for this week. There was also, we got a picture of him riding around in a lowrider with his team. Not entirely sure what prompted this, but that's
hard.
You like that?
Yeah, that's hard.
It's you know, Charles. That's as tough as Charles Howell's ever looked before. You know, in the Dodgers shirt, I like it.
Like the
and then this was interesting. So they were filming another Live duels this week in Dallas. The one in Virginia, I think it was, went out on the Brian Bros channel. Was received well. They changed the way they filmed it. They didn't use the broadcast cameras. It looked a lot more like a YouTube video. So they're filming another one at Live Dallas. And Bryson was supposed to do a press conference with Fat Perez, who was his teammate, and Grant Horvat and Phil Mickelson. He did not show up to the press conference. Then he was asked at his press conference about the duels, and let's roll that clip.
Since this is your first duels appearance, how do you approach the opportunity compared to previous content you've been involved in?
Yeah, well, I'm excited for this week. I think having it be my home tournament is going to be a lot of fun, and you know, I think it's great to come to Dallas and have everybody come out and support us. I think there's going to be upwards of 40,000 people potentially here this week, so it's going to be a lot of fun and super excited for the week. The golf course is in incredible shape. It's going to be a tough test of golf, and man, what a fiery place this could be. So I'm excited for the week.
You're playing with FP.
Here's the duels question again.
Phil was in here earlier. He thinks you guys are overconfident.
Yeah. Like I said, I'm going to focus more on the golf this week. I'm looking forward to a great test of golf, and our team's coming off of 2 wins, so we're pumped to be looking at going 3 for 3 for the Crushers, and I'm more excited about that and focused on that right now.
So I don't think that this means that he's like not going to play in the duels. What I think this is I don't know, like it's probably, you know, Brian Rolap, something that he said is the new PGA Tour CEO, said like we got to focus on the competition, like the competition being the centerpiece of all of this. We have to hyper focus on the competition. And I don't know, I think it's just like a little bit, it demeans the competition a little bit if they're up there with their press conference talking about the tournament and he's like, oh, you're playing with FP. Like, could you imagine going up at a PGA Tour event and going to Rory McIlroy, well, not Rory because he doesn't like it, but going up to someone and being like, oh, you're playing with Luke Kwan today. Like, they're gonna be like, no, I'm here to win the Travelers Championship.
No,
you know what I'm saying?
I disagree.
I think it's like they're trying to like, this is something fun that we do that's separate from the competition. I think that they don't want LIV, like it has to have the competition piece be very, if they're going to be like a sports league, they don't want it to be viewed as like this whole thing is like an influencer gathering.
I guess, but like they kind of started this whole thing as like we're not them. So like in that scenario, I don't think it's crazy. That just feels like he's exposed.
But then I think if they go full YouTube, then they're just like competing with, you know, the people that they're putting, like, then they're just a YouTube channel. You know what I'm saying?
He's a YouTuber.
I think it's he wanted the competition to be the competition, and he felt like
I get the MO behind it. I just think it's like, how can you say that?
So you just didn't agree with
answer that question. Unless there's, I mean, I think it's exposed. Like something's going on there.
You do think there's something going on?
Yeah. Like, is it supposed to be on his channel?
I don't know. Maybe.
Is there like arguments over who owns his channel right now? Maybe it could be something. You're
just asking questions.
I'm just asking questions.
You're just doing your own research.
Yeah, I mean, I don't have any info on that, but
yeah, it was interesting nonetheless.
Yeah,
Bryson finished tied for 8th. Tyrrell Hatton, he had a chance to win, didn't win. As is often the case, Tyrrell was not a huge fan of the golf course. We got a clip.
47 under par for his second round. Well, a tie for 4th. Anyway, with Paul Casey.
Stay there.
Needs to stay there.
Worst hole on the planet. That is fucking bullshit.
You didn't like it.
You know, some people are just very good at cussing. Like I remember, what was Silicon Valley? What was it with the hair?
Yeah, T.J. Miller.
T.J. Miller, what's his name? Oh, Ehrlich Bachman.
Ehrlich Bachman.
He'd be like, instead of saying what the fuck, he'd be like, what in the fuck are you?
Yeah.
I think Tyrrell Hatton's just very good at cursing.
He's skilled.
That you know, fucking bullshit. That was.
What hole?
Yeah, it was, and the accent. He's got kind of like a nice accent too. It's not like a Cockney accent.
Posh.
He speaks a little bit posh. So I think when you get there's a discordance there that I think is very good. This was also very interesting. So Padraig Harrington won the U.S. Senior Open, second U.S. Senior Open win at the Broadmoor in Colorado. Held on to beat Stuart Sink by a shot. It was a bit of a blockbuster leaderboard. We had Padraig in second. We had Stuart Sink in third. We had Miguel Angel Jimenez, who's been a beast this year. He's been the best player on the Champions Tour, holstering that putter. Shot 64 in the final round to finish just 2 back. But earlier in the week, Harrington got into it with Roger Maltby after Maltby didn't search for a golf ball. Let's watch this.
No. Never on a golf course stand looking at somebody looking.
Never on a golf course stand while someone's looking for a ball. That's what he said. You should have looked for my ball while you were standing there.
You don't stand looking at somebody looking for a ball.
You've played golf for 40 years. You should know this.
You don't stand looking.
And Roger's like, no.
Well, I can tell you, as the etiquette of the game is you don't stand looking at somebody looking for a ball.
I'm not a player. Padraig's like, you told me you look for hundreds of balls.
You don't stand looking at somebody looking for a ball.
Caddie's trying to break him up a little bit.
That's the etiquette of the game.
Did it again yesterday. It's just been boiling over a little bit. And Roger was not having it. Roger was not having it because Roger Maltby's a golfing man. You know, this guy was a professional golfer for a lot of years. He's been doing this. He's calling out his etiquette, which for a golfing man, that's like calling out your manhood. I'll say, in my experience, I have looked for golf balls when I'm out there. Because of what Padraig said, like, it's just that everyone is looking. It just feels a little bit. But then, I mean, I understand Maltby's probably thinking, like, well, not every group has me, right? Not every group has a bunch of people following it. Not every group is, you know, Padraig Harrington in the final group or one of the marquee groups. And, you know, if one person gets more people to look for a ball, is that an unfair advantage? But I'm just saying and because there's no like black and white rule. Maybe there is, I don't know. But I've never been told like, don't look for a ball or don't do this. I have definitely looked for golf balls in the past, and pros are very appreciative when you find them. And What do you think about this?
This bugs me for a lot of reasons. Not just because like Maltby is a legend that should be treated with respect and given the benefit of the doubt, probably, that he has good intentions. I also love Patrick Harrington. I'm a huge fan, so this isn't anything against him. But like, being a professional golfer, you are awarded the privilege of having people that might be near your ball.
You're not entitled to it, you're saying?
You're not entitled to having, like, it is Roger Maltby's choice, it is Dan Rappaport's choice to help look for a ball. Also, he is, and I think he says this.
Right, like Tiger's not going to go to his 20,000 fans and pick out one and be like, why aren't you looking for my ball?
Right, exactly. So, like, he also has a job to do. Like, the fans don't have a job to do. They're having fun. Like, it's a privilege for them to help look for a pro golfer's ball.
Yeah.
Look at how they all crowd around it whenever that happens.
Yeah, like, I get that. And I get that perspective from Maltby. I'm just saying I'd be a hypocrite if I was saying you should never look at balls, because I've looked for balls.
No, I just don't think you should give somebody shit for saying, like, you didn't help me. Like, that felt so excessive for, like, and also, like, an older guy, like, probably preserving his energy. I mean, I'm making things up now, but, like, he's trying to, I think he's trying to get set up for the shot.
He was probably just, like, smoking a cigarette. That's,
wow, you know. He's got to call the game, though. He wants to get in position, like, that's his choice.
I respected that Roger Maltby was just like, you're dead wrong. Like, I completely disagree with you here.
I'm glad he stood his own.
Yeah.
Like, it's kind of being taken advantage of there. Like, I don't know. I love Patrick Harrington again, but, like, that just felt like he didn't need to go so hard.
Yeah.
He could have been like, hey, man, why didn't you help me out there? It could have been
right. Could have been good-natured. It also could have been, like, you know, over a glass of wine at dinner with his team, been like, dude, fucking Roger Maltby just wouldn't look for my ball today.
He's so
it's just doesn't need to be something that's, like, directly handled.
Yeah.
I see what you're saying. Over on the DP World Tour, Adrian Sadier won his 200 start. We love a round number. So that's 200 starts. Finally got it done. Super emotional after the round. Let's hear from him.
I'm sure you've got lots of people who you'd want to thank to get you here, and I can see how emotional you are about the win.
Yeah, I mean, you have to start with the beginning, and I have to thank my dad, because...
Whoa, that was a hell of a noise.
He took the decision to bring me at golf when I was 3. I have to thank my mom to let me play golf, and of course my wife, and it's great. It's great.
And with your win, you secure your place at the Open at Portrush.
Wow.
What does that mean to you?
I have to cancel my flight for the US for the Barracuda. But yeah, it's great. I mean, it will be a nice event. I'm sure my parents, maybe my wife will come, so it will be nice.
Awesome. Good stuff. Always means something. That was a better first win. That was a more waterwork first win.
Many people are saying he's just afraid of Grant Horvat. That's why he's not going.
Oh, that's right. Yeah. Grant Horvat.
It's not about the Open.
Yeah.
Like, I have to play.
Maybe he's camera shy, you know? That's funny. I didn't even think about that. I'm just kidding. That's coming up. That's coming up. I think it's opposite the Open, so it's coming up in a few weeks. Dallas Live is going to be playing on Horvat's channel.
Oh, okay. Not Bryson.
Got it. Okay. On the Corn Ferry Tour, Austin Smotherman won for the second time. I think he leads the points. I was talking to Neil Shipley about this. So Neil finished 5th, and he's now 14th in the points. And he said that Smotherman winning was actually good for everybody in Neil's position because it lowers the projected number of points needed to finish 20th because more points are going to the guy who's already going to be in there.
Oh, yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yes.
Never really would have thought about that. You know, they were like,
have to be like on the cusp to ever have thought about that.
Right. He's on the cusp, and he's like, okay, so if someone who's in 35th place wins, that's going to have a guy who's going to come up and get more points. If we give more of the point, like if Austin Smotherman won every tournament here on out, I think Neil Shipley would be like, that's gravy, you know, because like there's less points that go around to people not named Austin Smotherman.
It's kind of how we were rooting for Rahm to get into the top 10 yesterday. We're like, these 3 guys need to make bogey.
Yeah,
like, not these to get.
Exactly. Yeah, you there's certain people that you're paying attention to. I think, especially on the Corn Ferry Tour, certain names that you know, and if Smotherman's up there, I think those guys they're happy with him to win.
Also, great for the game of golf for a man named Smotherman to succeed in the game.
There's some bad. You know, you got Adam Schenk out there. My dad's got a friend whose last name is Hacker. The head golf coach of University of Georgia is Chris Hack. So
Smotherman's good though.
Smotherman,
that's like what Aldrich Potgieter does to the ball.
He just smothers it.
Yeah.
Okay, I like it. Wrap it up. LPGA, the Dow Championship is a team competition. Was won by Jin Hee Im and Sami Lee. So nice work to those 2 ladies. Okay, we are going to move into a segment that we are calling Looper Island. Guys, there's been so much movement, so much drama with the caddies, and it got us thinking. This reminds us of another show capturing the hearts of America, introducing Looper Island.
Tonight on Looper Island.
I don't get why you would make me sound bad.
They spend time together. They battle together. But do they work together? couplings.
I have to stand up for myself because I'm not going to let someone just throw little jabs at me.
What happens when a hot new bombshell comes on tour?
Go off the right.
They
don't want to hit it.
Change.
We want it landing right at
it. Oh, fantastic work. Absolutely fantastic. Alex Bush deserves a big round of applause.
Man.
We had an idea early in the week. We said, man, this is really starting to feel like Love Island with all of the drama. And it is. And we had an idea to make a Love Island promo, and Alex Bush took it from there and he ran with it. So we're going to talk about this. We're going to start with the Collin Morikawa situation. So Collin's had, I have a little diagram here too. I'm going to run through all of the recouplings. We're going to get to that after we talk about Collin. So Collin has J.J. Jakovac on the bag for 6 years. Their first tournament together was his sectional qualifier for the U.S. Open 2019, which he made it through. And had been with him through all of his wins, his 2 majors. He parts ways with him. He hires Joe Greiner. We had him on the show explaining that decision. Big news, Joe Greiner was with Max Homa forever. 5 events later, Collin splits with Joe Greiner. Shows up to the Rocket Don't Say Mortgage Classic with buddy KK Limbasuit on the bag. By the way, Collin finished in tie for 8th, $261,000. So 8% of that, if we're assuming kind of a normal agreement, is $20,928 for the Phil and Caddie. In 9 starts so far on the Corn Ferry Tour this year, he'd made $21,669. So he doubled his earnings in 1 week. So big week for him. So news first starts to spread that Collin and Joe are no longer, and a reporter, Adam Schupak from Golf Week, who is a different human being than Alan Shipnuck, which is going to be part of this story. He walks up to Collin on the first tee of the Pro-Am. And this is a little bit of a no-go for me personally. I try not to walk up to someone on the first tee of the Pro-Am for the reasons that Collin gets into. But Collin confirms that he's not done with Joe, and he says, I'll talk to you at the presser. Schupak then writes a story not just confirming that he's gone, but using that quote, like, I'll talk to you in a few hours, I'm playing at the Pro-Am. And then here was Collin at the press conference before the tournament.
I don't. And, I read your article that you wrote. Look, I'm not here to tell people how to do their jobs, but I don't get why you would make me sound bad because you put out my quote that I was playing with Pro-Am partners out front. Those guys are paying a lot of money. They're very important to the community. They're very important to the Rocket Classic. And for you to put out a quote like that, to put me down and saying, hey, wait 2.5 hours, I mean, you called me up on the first tee, So I'm not going to tell you how to do your job. You can write whatever you want. This is America. But don't put me down like that because it's 2.5 hours, Adam.
I thought I was actually giving you credit that you were focused on your Pro-Am partners.
Okay, we can all read it very differently. That's not how I read it. I don't know how, but I'm just telling you, I think there's a perspective where people can read it like that. So I'm just going to leave it at that.
So he's hypersensitive, given the Bay Hill and all the conversations that have been happening about his media. What I think he was angry about was not the fact that he came up to him necessarily and he said, yeah, it's true, whatever. It was that he included the quote in the story. Mm-hmm. Like, if I go up to someone and I say, hey, is this true? And they say, yeah, but let's talk about it later. I would just say it's true. I wouldn't use the let's talk about it later.
Exactly.
That's a human interaction where you came up to him and he was like, I'm happy to answer your questions, but I'm not going to do it in this setting. To then go and write exactly what he said in that situation, it's not my favorite move in the world. Your thoughts? We have another clip to get through, but I want to hear your thoughts on that first.
No, I totally agree. First of all, they edited the quote out of the story afterward, which was the first kind of thing I thought was weird about this. First of all, it wasn't that incendiary of a quote. However, if you look at it in context, and you've written these pieces before, I've written pieces like this before, it's very clear that he put it in there as a jab. That's how I read it, as a jab. So I don't blame Collin for thinking that it's a jab.
It just felt like a needless detail. It was needless. You had the story. You were going to be able to ask him questions a couple hours later. Did you really need to publicize this sort of human interaction you had with someone who I can imagine Collin's in the first tee and he's like, I'll talk to you in a bit. He was clearly sort of saying we'll handle this later.
Yeah. The other weird thing is that he defends including the quote by saying it was like a kudos to you. It was like giving you credit. Well, why did the quote then come out of the story later?
Right.
That's in the lead of nobody's not going to notice that the story became a story. You can't take the quote out of the lead of the article and then expect people not to notice that. So that was also a little bit weird.
Right. Okay. Let's then. So he plays on Thursday and then speaks to media again. Let's watch this.
At a point, you can only follow so much, and you have to stand up for yourself. Look, this has happened twice between me and Alan. Like it hasn't happened between anyone else. Like a lot of other reporters, media, I respect everyone. This whole idea that I don't do it. I mean, I've looked up how many times I've finished second. It's not once. And, you know, I think for me I think I have to stand up for myself, because I'm not going to let someone just throw little jabs at me and just make me into someone I'm not. Because I know who I am, and that's all that matters. I know my people, my team, my family know who I am, but this whole perception out there right now is just, it's a little ridiculous. And granted, you know, we've seen a few players do it as well, but that's not who I am. Like, I am here for you guys, but it's just, you know, did it one time and so be it.
So I got a few takeaways. Number one, he's mad at Adam Shupak, not Alan Shipnuck. He said that. He said,
"Let the record state.
Let the record show that Adam Shupak and Alan Shipnuck are different people." It is kind of breathtaking how similar their names are, and that they both are on the golf beat. But look, he got hammered for not talking after Bay Hill, and now he is talking and actually expressing his opinion, and he's getting hammered for that as well. I actually don't have a problem with this whole interaction. Like, we want our athletes to be honest. If you don't like what he said, that's fine. That's part of this whole ecosystem, and now we're talking about it. And I'm not saying that everything's content, but this is what we want from athletes. We want like human sort of stories. It makes the ecosystem richer. And he was annoyed by that, and he was annoyed by the perception of him not talking for media, and he went back. And Collin's definitely, I mean, I know him decently well. He's a stubborn kid. Like, he's got a little bit of that, like, I'll show you mentality, which I think is really good for the golf course. But he's a good guy, and I think he's having a rough go with the media, and I think he was trying to show a sort of human side of, like, actually, this isn't right what you guys are doing, and I had no issues with it.
We've written, what, like, between two of us, hundreds of thousands of words probably, and this is a case of, like, you don't think that they read what we write. And I like that he said, like, yeah, I read what you write. I think that's good for our sport and for the interaction with the media. Like, I know typically in journalism, you're like, don't let the story become the story. But I think in pro golf, if more stories start becoming stories, and we can, like, interact with the players about that, that's a good thing for
I think
sport.
it's just a net positive, and I hope Collin's not too upset, but I
don't think he's upset. I think he won this argument in my mind.
It's not a competition, but it was good. Like, I appreciate him speaking his mind. If we're going to hammer a guy for not talking, then you can't necessarily hammer him when he speaks his mind. You can choose not to like what he says, but...
And I think context is important. Like, that quote was put in that story in a context that was to deliberately, in my reading, make Collin seem standoffish or dismissive. And he wasn't being that. He was just had his priorities straight. And maybe he shouldn't have been asked that question at that time.
I agree. I think that's a nice nuanced take. So, speaking of Looper Island, we have a bunch of recouplings. These are our Islanders, okay? We've got Collin Morikawa, Justin Thomas, Patrick Cantlay, Tiger Woods, Max Homa, and young boy, Michael Thorbjornsen, the bombshell, the new bombshell on tour. And then we've got the caddies. We've got JJ Jakovac, Joe Greiner, Joe LaCava, Matt Minister, and Lance Bennett. And we're about to see the ties that bind here. So this all sort of starts with Tiger Woods and Joe LaCava. It's a beautiful relationship, right? Close my laptop. It's a beautiful relationship. We've got Tiger Woods and Joe LaCava. Tiger Woods gets injured, and Joe LaCava decides that he needs to find work. He needs more consistent work. So Joe LaCava says, Tiger, it's been an amazing run. We won the Masters together, but I'm going to work for Patrick Cantlay. Patrick Cantlay, why did Patrick Cantlay have a vacancy on his bag? Patrick Cantlay had a vacancy on his bag because he used to work with Matt Minister for many years. They won the FedEx Cup together, but they broke up. So Matt Minister and Cantlay are done. Tiger and Joey are done. Cantlay takes Minister. Tiger Woods, when he plays in the few events that he does, he now goes to work with Lance Bennett. Lance Bennett, Tiger Woods. Justin Thomas is in this story. Why is Justin Thomas in this story? Well, he had Jim Bones Mackay on his bag when he won the 2022 PGA Championship. He splits with Bones, and there's a guy named Matt Minister who's now looking for a job because Matt Minister used to work with Patrick Cantlay. So now we've got Justin Thomas with an arrow to Matt Minister. So we've got three guys who are kind of lingering here, and we're going to bring in Joe Greiner. Joe Greiner is an absolutely essential piece to this, turning a lot of heads in the villa. Max Homa is with Joe Greiner for many, many years. They're best friends. They have a very high-profile split earlier this year. Max Homa hires one guy who didn't make it on this list. I can't remember his name, and then eventually ends up with Lance Bennett. Joe Greiner is with Max Homa, and Justin Thomas, Matt Minister, has an illness. So this is not a Casa Amor situation. He just has an illness. And Justin Thomas hooks up, and we're going to do a dotted line here with Joe Greiner because it was just for a couple events, but they got a win together at the RBC Heritage. Why is Michael Thorbjornsen in here? Well, Lance Bennett had a pretty similar situation with Tiger Woods where he's working for Tiger Woods, but Tiger Woods, especially after this injury, just isn't playing very often. So Lance Bennett goes to work for Michael Thorbjornsen. Michael Thorbjornsen is working with Lance Bennett, but then decides, okay, and let's get to Collin Morikawa. So Collin Morikawa has JJ Jakovac on his bag for his entire career up until a couple months ago. They split up. We're going to do a full dotted line here because it was a full-time thing, or at least was supposed to be, but it only lasted 5 events. So it's not a dotted line like Justin Thomas and Joe Greiner, but Joe Greiner has Collin Morikawa, Max Homa, and Justin Thomas. Michael Thorbjornsen, once Collin Morikawa splits with JJ Jakovac has shepherded a young player from the collegiate ranks to being a top 5 player in the world. He's done it with Collin Morikawa, and he wants to do it again with Michael Thorbjornsen. So Michael Thorbjornsen hires JJ Jakovac. And here is where we are. I think we have, do we have everything? Yep, we have it all. Collin Morikawa's got ties to JJ Jakovac and Joe Greiner. Justin Thomas has ties to Joe Greiner and Matt Minister. Patrick Cantlay has ties to Joe LaCava and Matt Minister. Tiger Woods has ties to Joe LaCava and Lance Bennett. Max Homa has ties to Joe Greiner and Lance Bennett. And Lance Bennett. And Michael Thorbjornsen has ties to JJ Jakovac and Lance Bennett.
What a tangled web they weave.
This is the web. This is it. These are all the ties that bind on Looper Island. It's been an electric season in the villa, in the clubhouse. We're going to get some new bombshells coming next year, You never know what's going to happen on Looper Island. So just a fun little thing. And I actually wanted to look at, is this common, like all of this caddy changing? So I pulled up the top 10 players in the world on Data Golf. I did not use the official World Golf Ranking. Why did I not use it, Andy? Because the official World Golf Ranking is now officially, again,
utter woke nonsense.
It's utter woke nonsense. It means nothing. So the top 10. So we start with Scotty Scheffler. So this is how many caddies they've all had since 2020. Scotty Scheffler's had 2. He had Scott McGinnis and then switched to Ted Scott after the 2021 Ryder Cup. John Rahm's had 1. He's had Adam Hayes really since he's been a professional in 2016. Bryson DeChambeau has had 2. It was Tim Tucker and then Greg Bodine, who he's been with for a while now. Rory McIlroy's had 1. He's had Harry Diamond since 2017. Xander Schauffele, another guy who's had 1 caddy. He's not in the top 10 right now, but he's been with Austin Kaiser for basically his whole career. Tommy Fleetwood's had 1. He's had Ian Finnis since 2016. Russell Henley's had 2. Todd Yesvold, then Andy Sanders. Justin Thomas has had 3, and I'm not counting Joe Greiner because that was not a full-time thing. He's had Jimmy Johnson, Bones Mackay, and then Matt Minister. Joaquin Neiman's had 1. Gary Matthews. Keegan Bradley's had 1. Scotty Vail since 2017. And Collin Morikawa's had JJ Jakovac, Joe Greiner, and to be continued. So it's not all that often that top guys switch, which is why it's felt like a particularly active year on Looper Island.
Pretty fun to be going through the top 10 and just see Keegan Bradley, number 9.
Number 9, baby. Number 9. He's the real deal. All right. In a second, we're going to bring on our guy, Josh Carpenter, to talk about golf business. Before we start, I've got a little bit of information, a little bit of reporting I did. So you remember the tour was talking a lot about pace of play around Pebble Beach. This was earlier in the year, so the daylight wasn't as long. There was a lot of threesomes. There were a lot of really long rounds. Had to come back Saturday morning to make the cut in a few. It was just a bit of a talking point. We had a big meeting in Pebble Beach. They announced some upcoming changes, including testing rangefinders in competition, testing a policy on the Korn Ferry Tour and the PGA Tour Americas where they were going to be a lot quicker with penalties. And we did see there was a guy on PGA Tour Americas who got a penalty and then won the tournament. I will say the number one thing that affects pace of play is just twosomes versus threesomes. We talked about this on the watch along. You can feel it on the watch along. Like it's 2 hours versus 3 hours, just a huge difference.
Unless it's 5 playoff holes.
But the tour is continuing to move down this path. So which the rangefinder test, I don't think it made like a massive difference with the pace of play, but the players really liked it. So second shots on par 5s and shots 40 to 60 yards got faster by about 5 seconds, which again isn't very much, but it makes sense, right? If you're 250 yards away, you're maybe not so concerned with all the cover numbers. You just want to know how far you have to the green. That's way quicker with a yardage book. And then 40 to 60 yards, a lot of times these guys would walk those off, and then they're showing, this is cool, they're showing how long every hole is expected to play time par. The course is sort of a piece of the story. Like playing a certain golf course versus playing another golf course. Some courses just play quicker than others, so this is some nice information here. But the interesting part about the rangefinders thing is the players felt that it was faster, which is almost as important as like whether it's faster, right? Like placebo is very real, and players really liked it. So I'd expect this to see approval. The PAC will have to approve this if it's going to go full time into 2026. But from what I gather, the signs seem to be pointing toward rangefinders on tour in 2026. It feels like kind of a no negative situation.
Right.
Maybe it's not making the biggest difference with pace of play, but it seems logical. We want to encourage people to play faster. The yardage book has been like a really kind of important piece, but I think with technology, there's ways to do it a lot faster. So it just seems like kind of a negative. And the tour deserves some credit because this is not like overwhelming. They could have easily seen this data and been like, it doesn't really make a difference. We're just going to keep going the way we've done it. We'll try to do twosomes. But I think the fact that they're actually going to do it speaks to a sort of shifting mentality within the PGA Tour.
I agree.
And they've also tested out this policy of handing out penalties. They said for the equal period last time on the Corn Ferry Tour, there were 10 bad times. This time during the test, there was only 1 bad time with this new policy of penalties. So it seemed like just the specter of potentially being penalized was hanging over these guys. So yeah, they got to walk before they run. We're creeping toward, and they also said that they're starting to lay plans for releasing player-specific data, maybe to other players on the app, so then those guys know. Maybe that will leak. I'm not sure, but it seems like we're getting to a point where we're going to see who the slow guys are, and they're going to be named, and that's what we're kind of creeping to. But it's nice that the tour is actually, approaching this.
I think as long as the conversation stays active, to your point, then maybe if it's in their head, then we will get a little bit faster.
Yeah, I think it's, it's almost like if there's consequences for actions, it might change the actions.
Whoa.
So it's a brand new concept. Okay, let's bring on Josh. Josh Carpenter, Sports Business Journal. There he is. Ooh, mustache.
What a stash.
Mustache looks fantastic. So Josh, you had written in Sports Business Journal, you had Brian Rolapp as one of the 2 finalists. Did Adam Schefter scoop you? Did that happen?
I think the last time I was on in early May, I told you that Brian Rolapp was the person to watch. Didn't I, Dan?
Well, then we scooped Adam Schefter.
Can you play that back? Yeah, I think Schefter was 2 days behind me,
Okay, so let's talk about Rolapp a little bit. So this is what you do, sports business. As far as sports business goes, I feel like the NFL is the leader, right? I mean, they seem to be the league that they own a day. Yeah. They own a day in the American sports calendar. How is the tour able to do this, and what's the mood been on securing this hire?
Yeah, I think inside the tour, there's obviously some people who are, I say some people, but anytime you bring on a new CEO, there's going to be a little bit of unease in terms of what changes is this person going to make, what's the new direction going to look like. But at the same time, there's a lot of buzz kind of, inside the moat down in Ponte Vedra about hey, we just got the number 2 executive at the NFL to run the PGA Tour. Maybe you see the number 2 executive go to run the NBA or Major League Baseball or something like that, but literally you've got the number 2 executive at the NFL coming to run the PGA Tour. So there is a lot of kind of excitement around the tour in terms of what he can bring from a media standpoint, from an entertainment standpoint. Brian was the kind of the brainchild behind Thursday Night Football, which you've seen the NFL build into its own, standalone property outside of NFL Sundays. They kind of, even though, let's be real, a lot of times the Thursday night games are not that.
People watch them.
But people watch them in droves. They stream them now on Amazon, right? So I think the thought is what kind of different avenues can he bring to the tour that, we've seen a lot of the biggest knock on the tour over the years is that they're kind of afraid to make wholesale change, and they're kind of just content with what they have. So I think that's what has people most excited about Brian.
Yeah, well, he's kind of a media guy, right? That's where he came up. And if you contrast that with Jay Monahan actually worked for Fenway Sports Group, which is the lead investor in Strategic Sports Group, and he was a golf guy. He was running the Players Championship. He was a VP at the tour. So we've got an outsider coming in. The big sort of target here. There's 2, I would say. Obviously the LIV deal, which we'll sort of get into, but also the PGA Tour rights deal. It's been CBS and NBC for so long, and with ESPN Plus, carrying sort of the early round coverage. Can we potentially see, the streamers start to get involved in live golf? Can we see some golf tournaments on Amazon or Apple or Netflix?
You could, and maybe it's not your Saturday, Sunday, your signature events on the PGA Tour. Maybe somehow they can get those to remain on a major broadcast network, because that's where most people, you look at golf's demographics, right? It's a lot of older white males by and large that enjoy watching it. So they're used to watching it on CBS and NBC. Whereas, maybe you can get some of the fall events on a streamer or something like that, or some of your full field events that aren't going to attract as strong numbers, because that's the thing, Dan, is like, yes, you want to go on a streamer, but those numbers are going to be significantly smaller if it's streaming only on an Amazon, on something like that, than if you're on a CBS or NBC on a Saturday and Sunday afternoon. So I think, it seems like, those deals are up in 2030. 5 years seems like a long way off, but it's really not. They're going to really start kind of getting prepped to go to market in 2027. And then they're going to go to market in 2028, a full two years before these deals come up to figure out what's next.
You mentioned ratings. They've been good. So it's an interesting time to be having this conversation because, you can talk about, cord cutting and everything's moving to streaming, but the numbers especially on CBS have been fantastic this year. What do you think is behind that? Like, it's been a great year on tour, but Tiger's not around. How has the tour been able to, if they're going to say, this is what we did, what do you think has worked?
Well, I mean, first off, let's acknowledge the fact that their numbers were down, I think, close to 20% last year.
Okay, so it's up, you're saying,
which was a little bit
back to normal. Is that what you're trying to say?
Which was a bit of an anomaly, but their numbers have rebounded really nicely this year. They've had a really good run in terms of, we all saw the big numbers around the Travelers last week. The RBC Heritage had really good numbers. They've had a really good run really since Farmers in San Diego, early in the year. They've had a really nice run. That's not even adding in, they've got Nielsen has this new big data metric that they use, which kind of lumps in more streaming. And if you add that on top of the numbers, it makes them go even higher. So they have had a really strong year. I think maybe things have just started to normalize, and maybe there's not as much talk about LIV versus the PGA Tour versus, is the tour going to do this deal with Saudi Arabia? And maybe people are kind of just starting to move on and just understand that you've got, at least when you're talking about the two men's tours, you've just got the PGA Tour and you've got LIV, and people are just going to watch what they want to watch. And maybe there's not too much, back and forth between the two. So, and let's be real also, the winners the tour has had this year compared to last year, they've been different. You don't have many Matthew Pavones winning. You had a rain-shortened event at Pebble Beach last year, which was only 3 rounds, right? So some of those factors have played in as well.
So speaking of LIV, I was floored that LIV Dallas was on FS2. If I'm Scott O'Neill, I'd be pissed. You do this Fox deal, it's all about distribution, right? It's like a major network. It's sort of the dead part of the sports calendar. I mean, there's the Club World Cup going on. That was what was on FS1. Baseball's going, but it's not football season. It's not basketball season. You've got, Bryson, this is his home event. He's really going all out to try to draw attention to this, and it gets buried on FS2. Like, they've got to be upset about that.
Well, I think one thing you see, and you see this with the LPGA too, and how their rights deals are set up, is like these television windows are set long in advance, way far in advance. So, like, Fox has a deal with the NHRA, which was signed, I'd have to go back and look at it. I'd have to check with our motorsports reporter. I'm guessing it was signed before Fox's deal with LIV. And so the NHRA, the drag racing series, was on Fox yesterday afternoon at 2. And I'm assuming that was locked in long before this LIV deal was locked in. So it's not like LIV can just come in and say, well, we're a better property than you. Or Fox can say, well, LIV's a better property than the NHRA. So NHRA, take a hike, we want to put LIV on there. Because that window was probably already
they would have known this going in.
Yeah, probably so.
Still,
and so they kind of
do you get what I'm saying at all? Like, I feel like.
Oh yeah, I totally get what you're saying. Like you would assume like a league like
better than being on the CW.
Well, maybe it's because they've had several events on Fox earlier this year. Earlier in the week, they were on Fox for a time, right? So maybe that outweighs the, yes, and the viewership on FS2 for anything is going to be pretty poor, right? Whether it's LIV or whether it's college football or whatever. So, the ratings and stuff that come out after that, I don't know what those will look like. But, I mean, it just goes with it. Like, not every one of LIV's events was going to be on main Fox. Of course, you want more than or FS1, but yeah, they've had
that would have been a deal breaker. I mean, I know I'm not a market executive, but if you're telling me that you're going to put Sunday Dallas on FS2, it's like, what are we doing here?
I think, Dan, this deal came together pretty late. And so it might have been a thing of, hey, we can get what we can get on Fox, and then the rest are going to be on FS1 and FS2. They've had some on Fox Business this year as well.
Okay, before I let you go, so there's 2 new leaders. One on Liv, Scott O'Neill, one at the PGA Tour, Brian Rolap. This is no longer, Jay Monahan with Yasir, or even Jay Monahan. Yasir's still there, but it's not Jay Monahan and Greg Norman being the 2 leaders of these leagues. And I think there's probably some optimism that having new blood who, don't have the baggage of 2022 and 2023 and how nasty it was, that might sort of spark a new, bridge between the 2. Are you getting any sense that, or are both these guys just going to be so locked in their jobs that this is not a priority?
No, I think it's too early to tell. I certainly don't think there's much animosity, man. These guys know each other going back to their Harvard MBA days, right? Brian and Scott were kind of, in Harvard around the same time, I believe. So they have, it's not like, Brian goes back 20 years in the NFL. If you look at Scott's background, before he was in the UK working for the last couple of years, he was working in the NBA. He was working at the 76ers and Devils. He was working at Madison Square Garden. So I'm sure he and Brian have had plenty of kind of overlap over the years. Brian comes in with a fresh slate, right? He's not a golf guy, like we've said. He's looking at it with a blank piece of paper he's going to do what makes the most money for the PGA Tour. Whether that means partnering with Liv or not partnering with Liv, I don't know. So I certainly think he'll probably come into it with an open mind. I spoke to him a couple of weeks ago and he said, hey, we're going to do all we can to bring the best players in the world back together. So I think, we all want to see that. And yeah, there won't be as much animosity maybe as you've seen between Jay Monahan, Scott O'Neill. I'll give him credit. He hasn't come in and taken a ton of shots. No. From that perspective, he's been different from Greg Norman, and some others who have led Liv. Like Scott has said, hey, we're just here to kind of do our thing. We would love to see the best players in the world together, but he hasn't really gone out of his way to take any shots at the PGA Tour, I wouldn't say, overtly at least. So I think that both of them come in and they probably will want to try and work together if they can make it happen.
Good stuff as always, JC. Appreciate it very much.
All right, Dan. Appreciate you, buddy.
Thanks so much. That was good. I got schooled there a little bit on the the backroom dealings of these network deals with sports, but I don't know, maybe I'm just simplistic, but FS2 just wouldn't cut it for me.
You know what I was thinking about that whole time is what is the best solution to the product that they can make going into the next phase of a streamer era, and why is it just recreating the Masters app viewing experience for if we're gonna move the PGA Tour viewing to a streamer theoretically, right? Should they recreate what the Masters does on their website for us, where we can see 3-hole stretches and even more than what ESPN does?
But if it's consumer first, that's what the consumer wants. And if you're on a streamer, you're commercial. Even though I will say the NFL broadcasts that are on Amazon, they just look like normal NFL broadcasts.
Yeah.
But that's also such a winning formula that why would you go away from that?
Well, the good thing about golf is there are featured groups and whole stretches that you can break.
It's not just one game where you can. There's more room to have some fun with it. Speaking of having fun, let's do it right now. Rank 'em blind.
Let's have fun.
We're going to do a blind ranking. Ben is going to quarterback this while I get my trusty whiteboard. A lot of whiteboards. Third whiteboard today.
It's a whiteboard heavy.
We got the Rocket Don't Say Mortgage Classic. We've got the Ties That Bind on Looper Island, and now we've got the blind ranking.
We're going to have a little bit of fun this week. This is a very low stakes for you, high stakes for me, as it is a genre. It's important to me.
Sartorial.
Guys wearing hats. Guys be wearing hats.
Yeah, almost every single, there's a few notable exceptions. Ollie Schneider-Dan's being one. Turtle Hatton used to not wear a hat.
Patrick Cantlay from time to time.
Patrick Cantlay in a Team USA competition.
Hats, yes. Sometimes these hats are fire.
Let's see it.
So I want to tell you that there is a lot of heat in here, and to not go off too early here, because we're starting with the legend right away.
Someone's gonna have to be number 10, is what you're saying.
Someone's gonna have to be number 10, and it's gonna be difficult for you, I think.
Okay.
Tiger Woods at the 1994 Amateur.
Yeah, the straw hat.
The straw hat.
Yeah, it's big time. It's big time.
Legendary.
It's because, the black hat with the TW became such a staple, and the white hat later in his career. But, the straw hat, I think the straw hat's coming back. I wore one of these this week. Sugarloaf just released one.
Yes.
Great for sun protection. This is going to be number 3 for me because you don't see, he's become iconic in another hat. So it's it's anachronistic,
Yes.
it's a moment in time.
It's become a cult moment.
And that shirt they re-released too, didn't they?
That you can get that shirt. I don't know if Sugarloaf did, but you can get that shirt.
I think Sunday Red did a
that's right.
throwback to '94. So that's number 3.
All right. other end of the spectrum here, as far as I feel. Mr. Rory Sabatini at the 2011 Honda Classic.
Oh man. He looks like a lady gave him that at a bar where you ride one of those bulls. You know what I mean?
What blows my mind is like TaylorMade made this.
That
like
is
allowed there.
That is number 10. That's number 10. You know,
Someone's got to be 10.
Not all bucket hats are created equal. It's just
that's a cowboy hat.
That's a hat you wear in a bar where you ride a bull. So that's number 10 for me.
And so is this, but I think you'll like this one. Shingo Katayama at the 09 Masters.
Swag. This guy was swaggy.
Shingo.
Ooh, wow, the sides turned up.
Right.
It's going to be number 5 for me. This was his look. It was kind of a signature look. Whenever he would come on your screen at the Masters, you'd be like, holy crap, what is that guy wearing? He's just doing it, man. He's doing, he's got the sunglasses on backwards too?
Yes.
With some cool, little frames there. I like this. This is number 5 for me.
He's pinned up on there too. I don't know who on-off is, but his sponsor got a nice like.
A lot of bucket hats to start out with. A lot of bigger hats.
A lot of alts. A lot of non-dad caps. Another one, Bryson DeChambeau at the 2015 U.S. Amateur. And this, which I love, is like an SMU version of his.
Yeah, it looks like a totally different person.
Right?
Listen, I think the reason he wears the cap as an homage to Payne Stewart and Ben Hogan before that is a lovely gesture. But I think Bryson, since he's switched to the normal hat, has just gotten a lot more likable, and that's due to a lot of other things that have happened in the world.
His personality's also changed a lot.
Yeah, so but winning the amateur U.S. Amateur with that hat on is not for nothing. I'm putting that at number 7, but I do think that Bryson in the normal hats it's been a nice evolution for him.
I like how he turned his signature look there into a team color situation. Almost like something I didn't put on this list that I really love is Scotty in college wearing the University of Texas hats. Like he just wearing that like flat Scotty dad cap, but it's got that sweet cursive Texas on it.
Just says Texas?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's good.
All right, next up, a legend. Mr. Arnold Palmer at the 1971 PGA Championship.
Nice
visor.
Nice visor. Where's that Kiel maybe? I don't know where
should have looked it up, but I love that sign too. That's pretty
I like the visor. I also like the drop collar on the shirt. That thing's going like down to his belly button. I'm putting that number 4. Arnie in visor.
This
guy he could wear anything.
He can, yeah.
Just swagger, this guy.
But yeah, I haven't seen a ton of photos of him wearing visors.
Must have been hot.
He's a no hat guy a lot too in his early days.
Is he?
He was showing off his.
Back in he had a beauty. I mean, he was one of the first like super marketable athletes in the world. You got to show the moneymaker.
First ever Rolex testimony.
Is that right?
First ever.
I did not.
All right, next up is not a pro golfer, but he is a legendary golfer in his own right. Mr. Joe Pesci at the 2003 Bob Hope Chrysler Classic Pro-Am. Look at this.
Yeah, it's
John Daly. No
yeah,
less.
I mean, I think Joe Pesci can pull off that hat. You know, there were some amazing Joe Pesci stories told on Vanity Index. I'm going number 6.
Don't sleep on the shades either.
Yeah, I just wasn't expecting to see a non-professional golfer here. I think if we open this category to every person in the world,
Oh, you're gonna love where I'm going.
Okay, let's go.
All right, we'll switch back to your world here. The Chichi Rodriguez, circa 1990. I couldn't find it. Look at this like peacocking.
Yeah, are those feathers?
Those are peacock feathers.
Legitimate feathers?
Real or faux? Cool. I do not know.
I appreciate the effort. Chichi's going number 2. Chichi and the feathers. Also, name being Chichi, I feel like gives you a lot of wiggle room with your fashion choices. All right, update. We got Rory Sabatini number 10. I feel really good about that one. Bryson number 7 in his Payne Stewart hat. Joe Pesci number 6. Shingo Katayama number 5. Arnie in the visor number 4. Tiger at Sawgrass in the straw hat number 3. Chichi with the feathers number 2.
Chichi with the feathers. All right, we got 1, 2, 3 left. Seve Ballesteros in an absolutely iconic double logo visor.
Number one. Looks so sick. That is back, by the way. That look with like the high visor.
Oh yeah, Sugarloaf made a double logo homage to this.
Right. This was homageable. This was almost like a Brooks Koepka hat before Brooks Koepka. With it looks very modern despite it being from a long time ago. Also with the Nike shirt.
Yeah.
Also the
classic.
rope. Also the rope hat that the Caddie's wearing. Those are really like back in style these days. This guy's ahead of his time. Seve Ballesteros is going number 1 on my list.
Caddie's in the green Masters hat is a thing.
And the white jumpsuit. The timeless fit. We got 2 more.
Why don't we pull up our next one in that regard then?
Okay, what's our next one?
Not a pro golfer, but
let's see
a man near and dear to our hearts. Mr. Michael Bamberger at the 2005 Masters.
Caddying?
Caddying at the 2005 Masters, wearing the green Masters.
Who did he caddy for?
I should have looked that up.
Yeah, love Michael Bamberger's book, big time. But I'm just seeing a man in a hat.
You hate that it's not.
Well, it's just a man in a hat. So that's going number 9. But that's really cool that he's caddied at the Masters, man. I knew
he did that.
I knew he'd done a bunch of caddying. I didn't know he'd caddy at the Masters. But that's a very. He probably picked that hat up in the caddy room 5 minutes before his tee time.
All right, last but not least.
Yes.
It's a tough one because this would be my number 1, but I also had a preview of what these were.
Yeah, well, that's you.
Jesper Parnevik in 01 at the Open Championship.
Oh, this flip up is.
How cool was that?
Oh, that's a great place for it reminds
Upper Deck.
It reminds me, Upper Deck, which has a totally new meaning now with Upper Deckies. But
they don't make those cards anymore.
This just reminds me, as I'm going to throw one in right now. This reminds me of Talladega Nights. Okay, Ricky Bobby, when he sells the windshield, puts Fig Newtons. He said, "This is dangerous and inconvenient, but I do love Fig Newtons." He sold the windshield. He sold the underside of his hat. There are some agents right now who are looking at this and they're starting to go like this, like, "Ooh,
that's right." Well, he's a Malbon guy.
That's a new opportunity, a new sponsorship opportunity. So that probably would have been up there, very much near the top. Again, the
blind ranking.
The nature of the blind ranking got me there. But here's our top 10. Rory Sabatini, number 10, which I got no issue with. Michael Bamberger at Augusta, just a guy in a hat. Jesper Parnevik, amazing hat. I got killed by the blind ranking here. Number 7, we got Bryson in his Payne Stewart era because I like the post-Payne Stewart era better. Number 6, Joe Pesci, famous guy in a hat. Number 5, Shingo Katayama, a cowboy hat, but with a lot of flair. Number 4, we've got Swag Lord Arnie in the visor. Number 3, we've got Tiger in the straw hat, became iconic. Chi-Chi, because his name is Chi-Chi, he can wear feathers. Number 2, and number 1, we've got the Seve Ballesteros visor. That was a fantastic one.
Thanks. I got a fact check. Bamberger looped for Stuart Wilson.
Oh, an amateur.
Yeah. I learned a lot about this from this blind ranking.
How does he? I'm jealous. I want to caddy in the Masters.
He's Michael Bamberger.
I know.
I won't put a non-pro golfer in a blind ranking ever again.
Yeah, please don't. Please don't. This is a golf show. Okay,
you're playing.
Joe Pesci has Yeah, Ben watched the proposal and he's hasn't shut up about it.
Rehearsal.
You watched the proposal too? You ever seen the proposal?
No.
It's a good one. It's a rom-com. You should watch it.
That's next.
But the rehearsal is not a rom-com.
Not a rom-com.
Very different. Okay. We're going to move on to our dog of the week. Kind of an interesting one this week. It's Cole Hammer. So Cole Hammer did something that is a key component to professional golf and to really golf anywhere, and that's he protected the field and called a penalty on himself that never would have been called. So what happened was, and Monday Q's got the info here as he often does. What happened here, they're playing a Corn Ferry event. They're both pretty far off the cut. It's on Friday, and they're playing together, Hammer and Ledesma. Ledesma's caddy makes a gesture to him like 4, almost like a question, like, did you hit 4 iron? And Cole Hammer affirmatively answered, yes, I hit 4. It started eating at him. And he said after, so he called the Corn Ferry Tour. He said he thought that he was going to be disqualified because he's the one who gave the information. It ended up being that both players were disqualified for this. And after the round, Cole Hammer said, I feel a lot better now that I at least got it off my chest because it was weighing me down. It's just unfortunate that it caused a little storm around the tournament. Rule 10.2a in the rules of golf prohibits players from giving or asking for advice for anyone other than their own caddy. So they violated that. And so Cole Hammer reached out, and Ledesma said it was the correct decision. His caddy was horrified because this is something that happens all the time. You'll see this at a golf tournament, but I think
it's Brooks Koepka moment, right?
Right, with the 5, we don't know what that was, but I think the way that stops happening is for stuff like this to happen, for people to be like, hey, we've been sort of getting a loophole here. I think that maybe we should fall on the sword because this practice is actually not allowed. It's one of the most frequently broken rules. And they can't legislate against you looking in someone's bag, but they can legislate against you giving someone information. Yeah. So, he said he was completely absent-minded when it happened, and I believe him. But to have that eating at you, and then to go out, and disqualify yourself. He didn't want to disqualify the other guy, but to disqualify yourself for that situation, I think that does a good thing long term for the game. So
he studied at the school of South Tagala, and we appreciate
exactly right. We had South Tagala last year, cost himself like a couple $1 million with moving a grain of sand that no one saw, and we had Cole Hammer, who's had a tough year on the Corn Ferry Tour. He's only made 5 of 15 cuts. So, but yeah, we like that. Dog of the week for protecting the field and for, maybe shining a light on a practice that probably is a little bit below board. We're going to bring on one of my favorite people in golf, the golf degenerate, Mr. Kenny Kim. Kenny, talk to me, my friend. You're on mute, my brother.
Sorry about that,
Kenny,
bro.
we're talking about this all week. We're ready for our time, and we come in on mute, my friend.
Hey, my bad. I'm usually not left on mute at all. I usually just like to yell and stuff, so it's weird for me to hit that mute button whenever I'm on camera.
How do you feel about Golf Degenerate? You know, I mean it like lovingly.
Yeah, no. I mean, golf is. I live and breathe golf nowadays. Either it comes to gambling, whether it comes to playing, I've found something in my swing. I'm addicted. Yeah, it works for me.
You're back from Canada. I know you had quite a trip in Canada. Can you give us a little bit of a little recap of Kenny north of the border?
Yeah, a lot of the stuff I probably can't say on the show.
I think you could. I think you should try us, man. We're on YouTube. We're not, you know.
Yeah. It was a good trip.
Don't admit to any like felonies, but other than that.
See, that's the problem.
Okay.
There was definitely some felonies committed while in Canada.
Yeah.
So that's why I can't really
borders
speak.
And passports and all that stuff.
Yeah. But, it was fun. I played Oakdale, where Nick Taylor had his famous moment over in Canada. Beautiful course. Played there, ate some Michelin star restaurant, which was unbelievable. And, met a bunch of guys from Mayo Media Network. And let's just say we had a blast. I will tell one story.
Tell it.
So we were partying. Late night, 2, 3 in the morning, drinking whatever we could find at that point in time. And it's like 2 in the morning. I'm tired. I'm getting older. I go to bed. But in about 30 minutes, I'm just hearing all these sirens in front of the hotel. I'm like, what is going on? And so I guess a guy who works for the network. This was he was staying with his pregnant wife. And so we were partying together, drinking and doing all sorts of things. And then he goes, and then he finds out his wife is in labor in the hotel.
He's on another planet.
Yes, another planet. And so he goes, he delivers the baby himself.
What?
In the hotel room because he couldn't get out.
What were the sirens for? They were just watching?
They came too late. It was a third one. For his wife, so I mean everything was probably nice and open, so it just came right out, and so he said,
sorry boys, I got to leave the post game, I got to deliver a child.
Basically, yes. Went down, delivered healthy, wife healthy, kid healthy, had the child in the hotel. The hotel said it was the first time a baby was delivered, probably the first time a baby was delivered by someone in that condition. In a long time. So that was probably the craziest story that I can actually tell.
Did you guys stay up while he was doing? Did you guys go watch? I mean, it's probably not the most fun thing to watch.
I went to bed. I heard this the next morning.
And you were like, you're kidding me.
I was like, in the state that I was in, I could barely see at that moment in time. So I don't know how he was able to. I mean, I guess seeing that, like.
They'll sober you up. Hell yeah, it will. Hell yeah, it will. Oh God, we got to get this guy around more, man. None of our other guests had a story like that. Okay,
and it wasn't even that was the craziest one he could tell.
Had nothing. Yeah, there's a lot more. There's some other.
I'm not trying to get other people in trouble. I'm not trying to go to Canadian jail, so I can't really tell the other stories.
Yeah, super fair. Okay, this part hopefully won't send you to jail. I asked you to prepare your 5 takeaways so far from the PGA Tour season because I love your perspective on the game. Let's run through them.
All right, so this one's number 5. First one, it's going to be sort of a lack of win equity from a lot of the quote-unquote elite golfers in the game. You look at guys like Collin, Morikawa hasn't won in 3 years. Cantlay hasn't won in forever. You look at Fleetwood and Burns, all Ryder Cup members. They sort of blew it away here recently. Spieth hasn't won in forever. Xander hasn't won this year, hasn't looked close to himself. There's only 4 golfers that have won in each of the last 3 years. I mean, Rory and Scheffler are the easy ones to pick. But, of course, the other ones are Keegan Bradley and Nick Taylor. Yeah. And I think it just goes to show how incredibly difficult it is to win on the PGA Tour, no matter if you're one of the top players in the game or one of the mid players in this game. Yeah. It just goes to show. And personally, I think that everyone's coming a little bit closer together when it comes to skill level. And I think that's sort of a good thing.
Yeah, so you're saying like the guys, I mean, Nick Taylor and Keegan Bradley, they're not guys you would think of before this year as sort of blue chip guys, but it is a telling stat that those guys have won each of the past 3 years.
Yes, it is. And then you look at other guys like Collin and Cantlay and other names like that who you expect to be out there and winning events, just haven't been able to do it.
All right, next one.
All right, so the next one is For me, the clamor of the Live PGA merger seems to have died down.
Yeah, it's
right?
dead.
In my opinion, PGA and Live merger, I don't think it's needed anymore. The PGA ratings, like Josh said was on earlier, I actually got this from him. PGA ratings are up big time. It feels like the time has passed for a lot of the headline stars like DJ, Cam Smith, maybe even Brooks Koepka. The only Live guys that I want to see are, Rahm, Hott, Hatton, Bryson, Neiman, and Reed. And now, would I like to see one or two more events outside of the majors where they compete with the PGA guys? Yes. Is it needed?
Yeah.
I don't think so.
Yeah, I'm with you. It's I feel like the tour has really absorbed the worst of it, and it feels like
I think
they're on the front foot. All right, number 3.
All right, Nick, number 3 is it looks like signature events are here to stay.
Yeah.
Right? I don't know if this is the most popular thing, especially from the gambling community, but I mean, 8 different winners in 8 different signature events. The signature events themselves, Josh Carpenter just said, are up almost 20% from last year. The money is too good. It keeps the top players happy. I know a lot of people don't like the no cut. If they could adjust that, that would be great.
Yeah, I just think do it like the old way we used to do tournaments, but just have them be for more money. Like, I don't, it wouldn't really change. Yeah. I don't think that fans are like, oh, this guy finished 68th in the FedEx, he's right on the bubble. They just want to watch the tournaments. And I think we see the cut is such an amazing, romantic part of our game. Everyone starts equal. And also, it's fun to see a guy, David versus Goliath battle, where a guy who's, I'm thinking about Nick Taylor and Scotty Scheffler a couple years ago in Phoenix. Like, that's amazing. So I agree. I think the signature events are here to stay, but I would love to tweak them a little bit.
Same. I mean, you look at Friday this past week at the Rocket. That was almost as exciting as the finish, right? I mean, you got 18 guys who make the cut with Mike Kim's 3-putt. I mean, of course, the coverage was already off air at that time, but man, that would have been great to watch.
Right.
But now, next one, Scotty. He might do this for a while.
Yeah, you think you're starting to settle into the Scotty angle?
You know what I'm saying? Yeah, like he's like that good. Like Patrick Harrington once said that. A prime golfer, an elite golfer, usually has like a 3-year window where he does like the majority of his damage.
Yeah, like with Spieth and with Jason Day, we've seen these runs.
Yep. Yeah, and we're on the end of the 3-year window from Scotty, and it does not look like he's slowing down. I mean, if you just look at his stats that he has for this season, look, I mean, you're first in strokes gained total, first in strokes gained off the tee, first in strokes gained approach. The kicker, 17th in strokes gained putting, right? I mean, if he overall proximity first, birdie average, I think fourth.
Well, it's like if he didn't have the year last year that he had, we'd all be freaking out over these numbers, but it almost feels like a little bit of a letdown after 2024.
But it's really not. This is just him being good, and I think he can get 6-8 majors. I think he can win another 15, 20 events in the next 5 years. It doesn't seem like it's slowing down for Scotty. And it looks like it's actually getting better. The wins haven't been there because it's hard to win, but you look at the numbers. It's hard to see something.
He's the best. There's distance between him and everyone else. All right, number 1.
All right, so the number 1. There's been a lot of disgruntled golfers this season. Whether it's on the course like Wyndham, Koepka, Jaeger, and those are just the recent ones, breaking stuff on the course, breaking stuff in the locker room, or with golfers having issues with the media. I know you talked about this earlier on the show. Rory, Morikawa, even Patrick Harrington, right? Now here's the thing. Is this really a big deal? Like we all have our opinions about these things that have happened, right? And most are negative, right? But in my opinion, I think it's sort of good to have polarizing figures.
Well, that was one of the things that Liv sort of took away from us when they took, Bubba and Brooks and Patrick Reed and Phil. They took a lot of these like spicier guys. The spice has sort of returned, and I think one of the reasons why is like golfers are their own franchises, right? So you think about a franchise that's like playing ass. There's such a negativity, like the New York Jets, right? There's such a negativity. No disrespect. There's a bunch of negativity around the New York Jets. It's like if it was all condensed into one person, and that person was the New York Jets, like. They're going to be in a bad mood.
Makes you want to take out a team marker.
It makes you want to take out a team marker.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, and the thing is, I think it's a good thing. I mean, would you like you talked about earlier, would you rather have someone who's boring, just says the right things all the time, and you don't really get what they really mean or what they really are trying to say because they're playing this role, as a professional athlete trying to, play a role. You know, I'd rather have these honest guys out here, even though I might disagree with them 100% on certain topics, especially, you know, the comments that Rory made about, you know, not really being up to playing a weekend at a U.S. Open, something like that. You know, even though I disagree tremendously about that, what it does is, especially for guys like
gives
me
us
and you
something
who
to
do
talk
content,
about.
Exactly. And you know, the thing is, I really enjoy yelling on my show.
Yeah, super
it makes
fun.
it a lot easier to yell at people when guys on the PGA Tour are saying stuff that's on their mind and the way they feel. You're going to disagree with them, but I'd rather have that than some boring guy who just, you know, placates the media and says and has no real meaning when he's speaking.
I completely agree. Did you have Aldrich to win last week?
I did have Potgieter to win at 110-1. I've been on a little bit of a hot streak. I've hit like 3 of the last 10 weeks. All right, well,
we're trying you're going to have to give us some picks then with that sort of record. Walk me through who we like this week, John Deere.
Yeah, I mean, I'm going to go with, for my one winning pick, I'll probably have like 5 or 6 people on my card, but the one guy that I'm really focusing on, and it is sort of chalky this week, it's going to be Thorbjornsen at 30-1. You know, top 10 last week, runner-up last year, 17th the year before, young guy, ton of skills. One thing that was crazy last week, he was top 5 in driving accuracy, top 10 in driving distance at the Rocket.
It's a good combo.
You know, a pretty good combo. Iron game has been somewhat of a weakness, you know, early in his career, but he's gained strokes with his irons in 3 of his last 4 events. The dude's going to be a stud.
Yeah.
And I like him at 30-1 as one of my outright picks this year, but this week. We're going to go top 10. I'll go total opposite spectrum here. Lucas Glover, plus 350 for a top 10. 9th his last time out, I think the last time he played. 3 top 10s here in his last 6 tries. He knows the course. He knows how to play it. He has a lot of experience, plays here every year. His form is not horrible. I like it at plus 350. Okay. Lucas Glover, top 10. And then I'm going to do final top 20. Sammy Wacky Valimaki.
Wacky Valimaki. That's a great
Valimaki. Plus 300. 4 top 20s in his last 7 starts. Iron game has been strong the last 3 months. Top 10 in the field the last 3 months from proximity from 125 to 175, which is the majority of approach shots at the John Deere Classic. Finished 12th his only other appearance here.
Okay, I like it. We got Thorbjornsen, we got Lucas Glover, and we have, who was the third one? Sammy Wacky. How could I forget Wacky Valimaki?
The whack job.
Fantastic stuff, Kenny. I still can't believe that man delivered his baby on Mars.
He did.
Special guy.
Yeah, the wildest. I saw a picture of the bed. It was not pretty. It was not pretty.
Yeah, what do you do? Do you have to buy a new? I mean, what do you do? You got to buy a new bed for the hotel at that point.
I don't think they're going to charge you for having a baby.
What do you?
That would be sort of a dick move
to charge you for having a baby in their hotel.
Yeah.
The hospital does it.
I mean, it wasn't like you were in the wilderness. You were in Toronto. Like, there's got to be an emergency room pretty close.
They tried. They called the ambulance. It just flew out of there. You know, before
the ambulance
came.
Like a water slide.
In the UK, you can have a baby
open
for free, but here, I think the hospital, you walk out with a bill and a baby.
Yeah, so maybe you save some money. Okay, fantastic stuff as always, Kenny. We won't wait this long to bring you back next time.
Hey, thanks, Dan. I appreciate it, brother.
Good stuff, my friend. All right, Chirps from the gallery. Great week on the Chirps front. We're going to start with Jamie Kennedy talking about Aaron Rai. So let's pull this up. Aaron Rai is not, there are some golfers who are super, super aesthetic. There are other golfers who are, not as aesthetic and are more form over how it looks. Jamie Kennedy says Aaron Rai continues to live PGA Tour life like a 20 handicap, iron covers, rain gloves, and now Castle tees. It looks like a tee you'd find on an infomercial late night on Golf Channel.
I want to see the brush tees.
Here's what I'm going to say. Aaron Rai is a fantastic player. If Aaron Rai is at Bethpage Black, he's going to get ridiculed for this stuff.
You think so?
And he shouldn't, but if you're a golf guy, or not a golf sicko, and you go and you see the guy with the iron covers and the 2 gloves, and you don't know the stories, which are he grew up with no money, he protects his clubs. I think, they could, it's an easy target is what I'll say.
I think at the Ryder Cup, maybe this is a hot take, but that should all be fair game.
Yeah.
And the players should just know that they're gonna get roasted, and know that we don't mean it.
Yeah.
They're that the New Yorkers don't mean it.
Yeah.
The Americans.
It's banter.
Just let them roast you.
It's banter. It's a bit of banter. Speaking of bit of banter, Love Island PGA Tour Connection. We got another one. My wife sent me this. This is Do we have the
US and UK is kind of like the PGA Tour versus the Live Tour. UK being the PGA Tour, it's got the most history. It's got, you know, the major moment. When you have Tiger coming back in the Masters like 2017, this is like when Millie and Liam came back, like Casa Morin came back from cheating, and then they like fell in love and everyone loved them again. We've got the drama, the history, like there is just so much like core in the UK. But the US, similar to Live Tour, has kind of had a rebrand recently and has gotten way better. The budget is way higher for US, similar to the Live Tour. Love it. Kind of the same thing of how like Bryson DeChambeau has suddenly become super likable. Same thing with Love Island US. Right? Like we don't really know how or when they were able to do this, but last season for US just made everything so big, so people are obsessed again.
I'm one of the adults who only watches Love Island UK. And, you know, a lot of people are trying to get me to watch US, but tradition matters. You know?
That was really, really well laid out.
Articulated.
Yeah.
Yeah. It was a good one. That's why we put it in. It's a good one. All right. There's this Korean golf course. Andy, I'm going to hit my favorite button. So this golf course, 18 holes stacked, 360 pot-style bunkers, 0 trees, 7,405 yards from the tips. I'm going to hit this. But you know what I think about this golf course? I think this golf course is...
utter woke nonsense.
That's woke nonsense. This is the logical extension of the anti-tree brigade. This is what they want.
Oh, you're right.
You know,
it is anti-tree.
That's a field. That's just a field. No, I get it. It's a strength space constraint. It's probably very efficiently laid out, but trees, man,
it's dangerous.
There were so many trees watching the Rocket Mortgage that guys had to hit over, and it looked really nice. The fans, Rocket Dote Mortgage Classic. The fans were enjoying sitting under the trees. So
Can I tell you what this reminds me of?
Yes.
A brilliant idea that I have for the post-apocalyptic golf culture in America. We need to build. You ever see the movie Biodome?
No.
So I know Andy's seen it for sure. It's a like 90s movie with Pauly Shore and Stephen Baldwin where they like wander into this ecosystem that's within a dome and they stay there for a year, but basically they can recreate nature in this dome. I think that indoor full 18 green grass golf courses are the future. You heard it here first. That's going to be
so like in a massive dome.
Yeah, like how many acres is a golf course?
Like 150 or something.
So 150 acres, but all within a bubble that can create its own weather.
Wow.
You're never going to hit the edges or the walls.
Yassi, are you listening?
Yeah, I feel like what they're doing with the line.
Neom or whatever, that's probably coming.
Yasser, call me.
Yasser, you watching us? Michael Lasasso, the reigning NCAA champion. He played the Rocket Don't Say Mortgage Classic this week. He missed the cut, but you know what he didn't miss? Leg day. Look at those things. That's our Saquon, and also like he has so much lag with that crazy swing he has, where he kind of pauses at the top. That picture just kind of stopped me in my tracks.
The shutter can't even pick up the speed.
Yeah, that left quad is it's there. It's there.
He's the Saquon of golf.
It's large and in charge. Victor Hovland. So Victor, I was scrolling on my Instagram. He had a nice music suggestion for us that he wanted all his fans to listen to. So let's take Victor's advice. What? Why does he listen to that?
Nice morning cup of tea.
He does it before golf too, and I did some MasterCard stuff with him, and he said that he finds it to be relaxing.
Probably because you come out of it like feeling like a release.
You've gotten everything out, but that's the music that Victor listens to. Wouldn't be a Chirps from the Gallery without Chris Powers. He had his Ryder Cup ins and outs. Ins, he's got Jake Knapp, Patrick Reed, Michael Thorbjornsen, Patrick Rogers, who he loves, and Davis Thompson after he goes back-to-back at the Deer, so I guess we got his pick. Outs, Collin Morikawa, Jordan Spieth, Brooks Koepka, Wyndham Clark, that screaming fan in Detroit. Koepka, I forgot to mention this. Shot 9 over, withdrew from the Live event. There's been talk about him with the Ryder Cup because of his history with Bethpage. He won in 2019. He won the PGA there. He's got basically one good round in the U.S. Open. That's what brought him back into the conversation. He finished 12th, but he was up there after the first day. It doesn't feel like it's been enough. Our last chirp, and this actually, I got to shout out my guy, my Torque family over there on Live Golf, the social media manager there. He got wind of us doing our dramatic reading of the last time when he was hyping up his boys at the PGA Championship. He was back. He actually DM'd me this. He said, "I hope you like this. I do like this. Let's cue the music." Here's Torque. This is after a bad first round from Joaquin Niemann. No, Joaquin Gravecaller. This army started dead last and has been fighting its way back with fury. At the front is a captain who knows exactly how to rise to the top, marching alongside his partner, Gary the Clever. And what a way to summon those once considered lost Juan Sebastian Munoz and his squire, Pep the Navigator, Carlos Ortiz, the Oakmont Survivor, the ever-trusted Mikey Kerr, and the rising fury of Mito Pereira with Glenn the Shield Bearer. There's only one way forward on Sunday: kill or be killed. That's the way we like it. Tour KGC. Expect mayhem. It's so ChatGPT, but I love it. I can't get enough of it. I want this guy. You know, actually, I'm going to put out a request. Can you do one of these for me for my Ireland trip?
Oh yeah.
You know, maybe just like a little hype me up, like
you should do it for your mid-end.
Dan
too.
and his father and his two friends drinking copious Guinness,
splitting the G on every
splitting the
attempt.
G. He makes a bogey and he drinks a Guinness. He fights back with 2 birdies. There's another Guinness. Yeah, just Guinness. That'd be the theme. That would be the theme. We're going to leave you with our clip of the week. And this was, what an amazing hole-in-one. To get a hole-in-one at Bethpage Black on the 17th hole is such a hard hole. To do it with the grandstands from the Ryder Cup behind you is really special. To do it where you don't really know if it went in because it's kind of uphill, you can't really see it, and the group on 18 starts yelling and yabbing, you know it went in, an epic moment. And again, before I leave, guys, we're going to do a Wednesday show. We're going to do a rewatch where I think we're going to do Bryson versus Cantlay at the BMW, which should be pretty electric. So join us on Wednesday. We'll hang. I'll be in the chatting with all you guys. And then no watch along this week for the John Deere. We're gonna do a version of a show, kind of a best of for you guys for next Monday on Dan on Golf, and then we'll be back in earnest on July 14th from Ireland.
From Portrush,
From Portrush. So here's our clip of the week, and we love you, golf sickos.
Go in.
I might have went in.
Yo, that actually.
Wow. Wow. That actually went in. That's crazy. Wow.
That's insane.
Holy shit, dude.
Holy shit.
That's sick.